Welcome to the Soul Health Mentor Podcast with Nadia Kraus. Learn how to move your awareness out of your mind and into your heart so you can embody your divinity, experience joyous peace of mind, and create your most vibrant life by opening to receive your soul's sacred medicine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Soul Health Mentor Podcast. Today, we have Tara Preston here with us, and we're going to have such a great conversation. Hi, Tara. I'm just so excited that you are here. We've literally known each other in the sense, the online space. I think it was 2016, and we connected via your Akashic Records work, and we've been Facebook friends ever since. So I know the work you do, but our listeners don't yet know the work you do. So when someone asks you, hey, Tara, what do you actually do? How do you introduce yourself?
Well, we've been doing this work for a long time, so I feel like there's so many strands of my work. But I would say the core piece that I do is really bring women home to their essence, to their soul, to their creative power, so that they can create a life on their terms, so that they can experience freedom in all different kinds of ways, and intimacy, emotional freedom, their authenticity, their creative power, their expression, all the ways. So that would kind of boil it down, I think. Yeah.
It is. I do realize that, we've known each other. We know the work we do. And it's just, if we would meet, we were strangers and we would meet,
Yes.
go like, so what do you do?
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said so many good things in that introduction. So a woman's essence, creating the life that she desires, and freedom. So, and I mentioned the Akashic Records, and I wanted to let listeners know. So, Tara, you founded your Akashic Records school. I don't know if that's the right terminology. Tell us a little bit about how you got to do the work. What inspired you to do the work that you do today? There's a story behind that. I know that.
Yeah. Well, my story, of course, we could go back like 20 years, but like kind of a pivotal moment in my story was when I was pregnant with my daughter, who did I know that I was having a daughter? I think I might have. But I was living in the city and fairly burnt out, and was a professional makeup artist. And really at that point, life was just feeling kind of like tight and outdated. And there was a nudge of a call. I just didn't know what that was. And I was also kind of growing in this sense too of like, there's got to be more to my purpose. Like, what's my purpose? And I had this like beautiful baby growing inside of me. And at that point, I was like, I really kind of like wanting to understand what motherhood meant for me. And so kind of like all of these threads started to weave together. And I really knew in my heart that it's like, I want to be the mother who says yes to her purpose, who says yes to those nudges, and then walks that path so that I can not just tell her to go live her dreams, but I can be the mom that is like, I did live my dreams. Like, I know what it takes to live my dreams, and I can be a guide and an ally for you to live your dreams too. So that felt really important. So then as I was, pregnant and really starting to understand the birth process, and I tend to do that with things, is like go really deep with them. I want to understand everything. And so just the whole birth process, and that became a really powerful kind of portal to just understanding my creative power. And after I studied and became a doula, and I actually didn't move forward that path. But what opened for me was like, I just want to help connect women to their power and to trust their instincts and their intuition. And then shortly after that, we made the move from the city to actually where we live now, which was in the country. And when we got here, there wasn't a lot happening on this property. We had no phone. I think we had to turn the power on. Like it had been sitting here for a bit. But anyways, I'd found the Akashic Records shortly after, and there was just something with the Akashic Records and deeply understanding our divine nature and then being able to like break down patterns so that we could more fully live our purpose, like our expression in the world. And so then I found the Akashic Records, and then that was, 13 years ago. My daughter's 14 now. So of course I've spent, many, many years journeying with the Akashic Records and then supporting women, often through that space of deeper connection to their self and clearing out the things that don't serve her soulful evolution and her embodiment. Yeah.
Oh, I loved hearing
So
that.
that's how it shaped my work.
Right. And I loved hearing that so much. I'm going to share what touched me in hearing and what has touched me following your work and, being Facebook friends and all that. Every time you mention motherhood and what it means and women to get their power and to walk their path, I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. Because my mom wasn't a mother that could do that. Wasn't a mother grew up in any way. She grew up being told, okay, you're going to cook, you're going to clean, you're going to be a stay-at-home mom. That is your job. And while there's nothing wrong with cooking and cleaning and being a stay-at-home mom, there isn't a lot of validation in it. And there wasn't a lot of gratitude from my father for it. It was just taken for granted. So the part where you mentioned, no, I want to show my daughter what it means to walk your path and what it means to claim your power. It is literally what I, as a daughter, ended up wishing for my mom. I wished my mom could find, her purpose and her power and stand in her value. And I saw through my mom's example that I decided, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be respected. I want to have a career. I want to create freedom. And what actually happened is that I chose not to have children because I connected that with I'm not going to be valued. So I give you that piece.
Something around that. Yeah. And I think a lot of mothers feel like that. I think that when we step into these roles in society, there does tend to come like programming with it for sure. And that's sometimes some of the work that we're dismantling. And then other aspects of our journey, just like our womanhood path, I think it can be amplified like around that, depending on the roles that we do choose. I'm sure, and it could show up in other ways too, but there's something really significant around the journey of motherhood and how that can show up for sure.
And you also talk a lot about the mother wound. And I definitely experienced that was the mother wound. That was me as a daughter feeling my mother isn't being valued and that I want to be valued in a relationship. And then you also have terminology where you talk about the family matrix and all those things really resonate with me in the sense that it's really meaningful work and meaningful topics that don't really get talked about. So in the
for sure
of your work, what is the mother wound?
Yeah, I think that the mother wound, it is felt along along our lineage for sure. And through the scope of my work, I guess, I feel it as a disconnect from the mother, like even Mother Earth, how we experience a disconnect and an undervaluing of our relationship to the mother. But it's really the pain and the suppression of the feminine that's existed on the planet for, thousands of years. And then, of course, we have generations and generations of women who have felt that pain and the suppression of the feminine, the undervaluing, the disconnect of the feminine and the feminine principle, and then how that plays out in our lineage, and then also like our soul path too. So it's those two strands that kind of weave itself into our present experience. And we're hearing more and more about the mother wound, I think a lot more than we did maybe 5 years ago or 7 years ago even. But yeah, I think we're coming into this era of, like the evolution of the mother and how we're really, as we do this work personally, as we start to really heal that separation and the suppression of the feminine that exists within, and we start to connect to that essence and value her and her expression and her creative vision and her power, and we start to make that a priority in our relationship to ourself and our experience, then we heal that. We heal that through our lineage. We heal that for our daughters. And it's through that journey, though, that there's often like a dismantling, there's often deeper connection. And then with that, as our relationship to ourself shifts, because we're starting to value and connect to and heal that mother wound, and often too, and I find there's multiple timelines that often connects to our experience as young girls and our relationship to our mothers, where our mothers didn't see or value, or maybe our dreams or our expression, or maybe some of our wants, or even really allow us to feel safe in our sexuality as young girls. And then we take that on in our experience, but that's really because our mothers didn't have that and their mothers didn't have that. Right. And so as we really come into that new space of what that gets to look like in our evolution, then we heal those layers. But as we heal those layers, it shifts our relationship to ourselves. And inevitably, if we're in a relationship that maybe we've been in for a long time, there's going to want to be an upgrade in the relationship. And if a mother is coming into this new journey or new kind of like way of being with herself and her empowerment, inevitably, as she begins to show up in a new space of power and valuing herself and her vision for her family and her values, then it's going to restructure not just her relationship, but the whole family matrix. Yes. And I think that to me is like, some really, really, it's for me right now, it's probably like my most gratifying work, because it's deep and it takes time. And we really look at how the consciousness of the feminine wants to upgrade the family unit. And so that takes time, because we're looking at different relationship dynamics and how that wants to flow to support everyone, but also, like the mom. So, yeah.
And me, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking back of my family and of the dynamics and how my mom didn't have access to this powerful work or the Akashic Records. She didn't know about the mother wound. She didn't know about the lineage and the generational healing. And unfortunately, the marriage that I saw my parents have was the typical patriarchy, and then the and my dad was a patriarch. He really was. And he didn't much care about, he wasn't a good provider as such. He just did his thing, and whatever I do, it's my money. I earn it. You don't. And the housework and the raising the children wasn't valued. So the family matrix that was my mom and dad, right? Started playing out in my marriage, even though I don't have children. And not
totally,
not that my husband is my father, and he's nothing like him, and he does to me.
I get it. Yeah.
And he's not him at all. But it was the struggle that I had as the daughter, saying, no, I want a career, I want purpose, I want my power. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because you can't have this conversation with very many people. And I believe there are women out there that need to hear this, that might have never, ever heard anything like that. And I've heard you and seen you use the word family matrix, mother wound, lineage, clearing the root. So let's talk about clearing the root. How can a mother that is listening to this conversation we're having, how can she begin? Where's the first step? What can she do?
Well, I think that it depends with where you're at in your journey, for sure. Like, and I still have mothers who have been doing this work for a long time come to me because they're on the edge of evolution. They're being called and they've done a lot of work. They're bumping up against old relationship dynamics, maybe with just their spouse right now, because, because we're all at different places, and maybe I'll touch into that in a little bit. But, depending on where the mother is, I know for me in my journey, the first place for me was to start to create a space to connect in. like to start to take myself out of the busy go do patterns and really start to create a space of presence where I could come home to myself, where I could start to love myself, hear myself, where I could start to value my own presence and my own contribution. Like that was for me really powerful. And at that time too, I remember feeling a little bit of pressure because my husband wanted me to get a job and keep working. And I was like, well, I want to do my purpose and like make money. And this feels like actually more important. And it often, like, the space that I needed wasn't valued because it wasn't yet making money. And I was focusing more on like child rearing. And it wasn't his intention, to ever like directly hurt me, but it was more like the scarcity of like, we need money. And I was growing in my sense of purpose and my sense of value. And I realized at that time I had to value my purpose. Like I had to value me. I had to value my sacred work. We had to have some conversations along the way, but like, it really was that growing from that sense of like love and valuing just like the truth of who I was in that space of presence, because that's so huge, and taking us out of those like busy go do patterns that we tend to operate from when we don't feel valued. So that was a really good starting point. Yeah.
Oh, that was powerful.
I can keep going, but yeah, go ahead.
That was powerful, especially when you said coming home to ourselves and being present with ourselves. That is such a powerful thing to do. And yet it is so hard because I've just realized that this year I really was releasing doership and performance mentality. That's
yes.
We're anchored into this do, and you've got to prove yourself, blah, 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 and really perform. And this, it's the opposite. We need to come home to ourselves. So you said that. That's a very powerful first step. And
thank you.
I know you have a few things that you offer as that first step. So do you still offer the Radiant Power Hour as a start to start?
I do. Awesome. Yeah, it's on the website. Yeah. So I still do. It's still such a beautiful practice that I still use. I've adapted it over the years as I've grown and what that claiming that space meant for me. But I mean, yeah, all my clients still use it. It's on there. If that speaks to you, it really is a beautiful practice to really start to come home to self.
Yes,
in that way.
And is it tarapreston.com? Is that the website it's on?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that would be a first step that women that are listening to this conversation can get to know you better and have this very powerful practice that you said beautifully. I really love the coming home to yourself. And
yes,
the part,
and that's
go ahead.
It's an important piece too, because so many women are craving intimacy, and they want to understand how to shift their relationships and their partnerships. And coming home to ourselves is like the first step, because it's like when we can be intimate with ourselves, when we can hear ourselves, when we can start to listen to our inner child, or listen more deeply to our needs, or start to process some of our emotions, we become more intimate with ourselves, and our communication actually refines. And then we can start to have those deeper conversations with our partners, without feeling like it's like we need something. Instead, we're coming from a place of deeper self-connection. And that's one of the beautiful aspects too of coming home to ourselves. Since we were talking about like upgrading the family matrix, I truly believe it begins with like intimacy with ourselves, really starts to have this ripple effect in our partnership. And then things start to really open up and shift in the home too. So I just wanted to share that part for whatever reason. There it is.
It's really important. You did, because how can we communicate to our partner or to our children what we need when we can't connect in to actually realize what we need, right? And I found 3 questions that I would use to check in with myself. And it's like a strong nurturing skill. It's how do I feel? What do I need? And do I need support? And that was the part that was really hard for me.
Good.
If I can't if I don't know how I feel, or if I need support, how can I talk to my partner? And I love that you brought that aspect of communication in there as well. And one thing I still wanted to weave in, because Tara Preston, that tarapreston.com is where the listener can find that first step, Radiant Power Hour, to really get into with yourself. But you also are the Flower of Life Akashic School. Now, I might not say it right.
That's okay. Yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah.
Say it right for us.
So it's the Akashic Women's School, but underneath that is the Flower of Life Akashic certification. Yeah.
So if the women that are listening to this conversation, if they have gotten curious about what are the Akashic Records, how can the Akashic Records help me with that lineage work and with the family matrix and all the deep stuff, is there a first step they can take in getting to know?
Yeah, the Flower of Life is like my foundation work. I was actually just having that conversation the other day. It's almost like I wish I want all my private clients to like go through that program, even if they don't certify, because it's so foundation to everything that I'm sharing right here, right now. Yeah, absolutely. And it guides you through a very beautiful transformative process of examining the mother wound, of what this new paradigm of being in our feminine prosperity, which is really just a deeper space of connection, of being embodied and being expanded in our energy, as opposed to where we're coming from, that old mother, old mother, that doesn't sound very nice, but the old paradigm that oftentimes our mothers lived in, which was collapsed and disconnected and pushing and going and doing. Right. And this is where the Akashic Records are like so brilliant at clearing out a lot of that gunk that doesn't serve our soul's purpose, like the paradigm of prosperity that we're truly meant to live in. And then, when we're talking about the feminine too, just being inhabited in like a female vessel, feeling, the joy and the pleasure of being embodied in the power of what it means to be a woman, or to be embodied in the feminine vessel. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I feel like we've touched so deeply in a short amount of time.
Yeah, really. Where did that time go? That's wild.
Reflecting back on our conversation, what is the out of your mind and into your heart wisdom you'd like to share with the listeners? And it can be totally spontaneous, and I'll just whatever you want to share with.
Of course. Yeah. Well, we were talking about, I think like the Radiant Morning Power Hour is like that connection to the heart space. And that's like a really beautiful kind of like doorway or gateway into this like reclamation and awakening of the feminine. And then as we start to get to know ourselves, what often happens is that we unearth a vision of prosperity, of love, of greater wholeness or connection or healing for our families or for our communities. And to me, that's where we go deeper into the creative power of the mother, of the womb. And so the reason that I wanted to share this is that if you have a vision for your life, for your family, right? If you have a vision for your community, that my invitation would be to nourish it, to protect it, and to claim it, and to know that if you're being gifted that vision, it is for you and you have the capacity to bring it through.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You can find Tara at tarapreston.com, and then you share the website again from the Akashic School.
Yeah, akashicwomenschool.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here, Tara.
Thanks, Nadia. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Soul Health Mentor Podcast with Nadia Kraus. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review at Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are playing.